Okay, so today I wanted to embark on a journey that I said I would long ago, and that's talking about all of these special weapon types in Destiny 2, going into each individual type, analyzing all of the options, discussing why one option might be better than another, and then ranking and tiering all of them in a nice, attractive video form in order to inform some of the viewers that have been asking me in Twitch and YouTube. Hey Aegis, I have a bunch of shotguns. Which one is better for such and such activity? I saw someone using this shotgun. Why were they using this shotgun and not this shotgun? So hopefully this video kind of explains the thought process behind shotguns, how to rank them, how to analyze them, how to compare them at an endgame level. So before I get started, what do I mean by endgame? Well, my definition of endgame might differ from yours, so let me give it to you straight. Endgame in my eyes is speedrunning, low manning, or doing other low power content like day 1s, GM Nightfalls, Master Raids, and Master Lost Sectors. Basically any content where the role of your weapon, how you use your weapon, what specific weapon you have, all of this starts to actually matter, and you'll see the effects in much greater detail than if you were just doing something like a patrol or a strike. So let's first talk about, when I'm comparing these weapons, what factors and non-factors am I going to be considering? So what do I mean by factors and non-factors? Well, factors are stuff like, let's take a look over here. Factors, we have archetype. Archetype is arguably the most important thing when comparing shotguns or really any special weapon type because it makes such a big difference to the base damage profile of the weapon. For example, rapid fires do low damage per shot, but have a very, very high fire rate and very high DPS to compensate. On the other hand, aggressives have a very slow fire rate, but they have a very high damage per shot. And of course, you have special, shotgun options like slugs where you need to hit crits in order to do max damage, but on the other hand, their damage profile is adjusted to compensate. Then we have affinity. Affinity is not a huge deal, which is why I've made it yellow and not green here. However, it does mean that certain weapons are going to have advantages over others just based on being kinetic or solar or another affinity that's favored at the time. In the current sandbox as of today, as of Season 22, kinetic and solar are the affinities to look for. Kinetic because kinetic weapons have a 15% inherent bonus to unshielded targets compared to the stasis and strand weapons occupying the same slot. And of course, solar weapons match the surge of Apex Predator and Gjallarhorn, two of the most prominent weapons used in damage today. I've also included an exception for void shotguns that are used with tractor. If there is a void shotgun that is used with tractor in a damage rotation, then I've also given it some beneficial scoring for the affinity section of this ranking, but for most void shotguns, they're not going to be receiving that perk since most shotguns aren't really used for tractor for swapping. There are very few of them that get that honor. Next, we have perks, which I've split into reload and damage. I've actually split perks into more than just reload and damage, but the most common, categories that people are familiar with are reload and damage, so I've listed them here. Anytime that there is a perk that's beneficial to a weapon that does an individual and unique job, for example, I would consider Vorpal and Frenzy to do the exact same job. They have the same 15% damage bonus and similar activation conditions, so I've considered them kind of the same perk. If a shotgun has both Vorpal and Frenzy, I haven't given it bonus points or, 2 times the points it would if it just had Vorpal, okay? Reload perks are stuff like autoloading holster and grave robber, pretty common shotgun perks for a variety of use cases. And finally, we have competition. Competition is referring to, hey, is this shotgun the best at what it does? For example, is Heritage the best kinetic slug swap shotgun or the best kinetic swap shotgun for DPS? If the answer is yes, I've given it a lot of points. If the answer is, it's an acceptable alternative, but it's not the best, then I've given it a small amount of points, and then of course if it's a non-starter, then I've given it 0 points. So those are the factors. Miscellaneous, I originally included this as a factor, but it turns out there's pretty much no shotguns that have a quirk to them where I really wanted to dock points. For example, Wastelander's suboptimal swap animation for swapping, I've taken that out of the picture because Wastelander isn't really something that's used for swaps nowadays because I recommend aggressive swaps instead of lightweight swaps for most shotgun swapping instances. Another example, Fortissimo's 5 mag, or the fact that Gunnora's axe doesn't get assault mag. These are all things that to some extent do matter, but I haven't really docked any shotguns for them, and I still think these shotguns remain in the same tiers that they would be regardless of whether or not I had docked them for points. Okay, so going forward, let's talk about non-factors. So non-factors, what am I not going to be considering when I'm ranking these shotguns? Now this is important because a lot of other tier lists do actually take into account, hey, is this thing craftable? Is this thing easy to farm? What is this thing's history? What is this thing's reputation? How popular is this thing? Does this thing have alternative perks that might be good? Like, does it have a perk pool that's favorable for farming? So all of these things I'm not considering, but let's be explicit. Number one, I'm not considering whether or not a weapon is easy to farm, whether or not you can still get the weapon even. So that's number one. Number two, I am not involving any sort of subjective preference on my part. If I like how a gun sounds or feels or anything subjective, aesthetic like that, I'm not including that. I'm not really the type of person to have kind of subjective preferences when it comes to weapons anyway, but in case you were wondering, that's also not a consideration. A weapon's history, for example. First in Last Out has a storied history in Destiny 2 when it comes to DPS rotations and just being used in general, but I'm not going to hold that against it or for it when it comes to ranking these shotguns. And fourth, we have reputation. When I say reputation, I'm talking about what do players think of this shotgun at the moment. So not history, but right now, today, if you ask a player, hey, is this shotgun good? What do you think of this shotgun? That is not going to matter when it comes to ranking these shotguns in this tier list. And finally, we have usage rate and perk alternatives. Usage rate, pretty straightforward. Do a lot of people use this shotgun? Do a lot of people have this shotgun? That's not going to be a factor here. And perk alternatives, like I mentioned earlier, if a weapon has 2 perks that do the exact same thing, like Vorpal and Frenzy for swap shotguns, I am not going to give an extra point or extra scoring weight to that weapon for any reason. Okay, with that out of the way, finally, I want to talk about scoring. So scoring, I've split up scoring into a variety of factors, but I'll kind of briefly give you the rundown here. Now, the reason why I want to talk about scoring is because if you've been watching my Twitch stream, I originally ranked this tier list on stream, and I wasn't really happy with the results in their entirety. At the time, I was pretty okay with what had happened, but then I looked through some of the shotguns that were placed above and below others, and I was like, this doesn't really start to make sense to me. So I decided to redo this entirely so I have some sort of objective basis to guide me, and I think I'm very happy with the results that have come from this ranking, from this scoring. I think they're very, very in line with reality, in line with what players think when it comes to choosing these shotguns, and not necessarily player opinions of these shotguns or the reputation of these shotguns. Okay, so with that being said, with archetype, I've given favor to rapid fire frames. Rapid fire frames, in my opinion, are the best shotgun archetype in the game. They do good DPS on their own. They have the highest reserve, so per shot count. When it comes to total damage, they have great total damage, not the highest total damage, but they have the highest shot count, which matters for stuff like 1-2 punch. They're great in a pinch for dealing with majors, and they do boss damage excellently as well. So they're kind of a jack of all trades, and I wouldn't say they're a master of none either. They certainly have their own niche that they do best as well. So rapid fires, I've given them the most favor when it comes to scoring. Next up, we have aggressives, and we have, I believe, lightweights. Aggressives and lightweights, I put them on equal footing. I would say lightweights are better when it comes to just using a shotgun for utility purposes, whether that be 1-2 punch, whether that be moving around and just needing to burst a major down with Surrounded or a similar perk. I would say lightweights are better for that. But on the other hand, aggressives are better for swapping when it comes to DPS. So I've kind of put them on equal footing. They both do similar jobs. They both are meant for using the shotgun itself to do damage a lot of the time. But I would say aggressives are better for swapping and boss DPS, while lightweights are better for utility, though you can mix and match their purposes. Next up, we have slugs. Slugs, I placed them a tier below. Now, this might surprise some of you, but slugs, with their nerf, I would say about a year ago, they've kind of moved down in the meta. And it's not as a result of having poor options. They have good options out there like Nessa's Oblation, Heritage, Sojourner's Tale, etc. But slugs just in general, they require you to hit crits, which is not a big deal. But even with the fact that they require you to hit crits, they do lower DPS than lightweights, they do lower DPS than rapids, and they're worse in a swap context compared to aggressive and lightweight shotguns. So in my opinion, there's really not much places that you would really use a slug in modern Destiny 2 if you are thinking objectively and playing with the facts. Because slug shotguns, simply, they don't have super high DPS, they're not the best swapping archetype anymore, they require you to hit crits, and when it comes to roaming around and, doinking targets in the head, they're not really the best when it comes to roaming and using a utility shotgun either. So slugs are kind of lost. They still do decent damage, but I wouldn't consider them to be up there with aggressives, lightweights, and rapids. They can play down here in their own tier. And finally, of course, to no one's surprise, precision pellets are all the way at the bottom. They have low DPS, low total damage, nothing really remarkable about them, no good stats like lightweights have, no intrinsic bonus that's really useful, so precisions go right the way to the bottom. If your shotgun is a precision right out the gate, you are already at a disadvantage, okay? Let's talk about affinity next. Affinity is really simple, like I said before, I believe. You know, kinetic and solar and void in some cases are what we're looking for. Everything else I've left neutral. Now, perks I've split into 4 categories: swapping, ammo, reload, and damage. I've only given weapons a swapping weighted bonus if that shotgun is actually used for swapping. So for example, if a gun that is not used for swapping has something like threat detector or surplus, I've ignored it because it doesn't really make sense to include that as a plus when that's not something you're really using that gun for. So for example, if a rapid fire shotgun gets surplus, well, that's not really a plus because you're not really swapping with a rapid fire shotgun, and that in that case, the handling isn't a DPS increase, it's really just a quality of life improvement, which I'm not going to hold super, in high regard when it comes to ranking on this tier list. If we're talking about ammo is stuff like field prep, lead from gold, triple tap, 4 times a charm. These are all perks that extend the total amount of damage that you can do with this shotgun. Now, this is great. This is fine. I think it's good for every single archetype of shotgun. I haven't weighted it nearly as high as a reload or damage perk, but it's there nonetheless. Useful in stuff like GMs, Nightfalls, whatever it is, where you're traversing through an activity and you're dealing with a dynamic amount of ammo and a longer period of time where you don't get something like a rally flag that you would in a raid or dungeon. Next up, we have reload perks. Now, reload perks are pretty much just Grave Robber and Autoloading Holster. Some shotguns get Envious Assassin, but for the most part, I'm talking Grave Robber and Autoloading Holster. Grave Robber, of course, referring to melee builds like 1-2 punch builds, and Autoloading Holster being the classic Autoloading Holster. There's also Reconstruction in here for a couple shotguns, but that's a pretty rare sight, and that basically falls into the same category as Autoloading Holster. And finally, damage. Now, damage has a couple categories. Like I said, Frenzy and Vorpal, I've considered them kind of the same. We have 1-2 punch, which is separate. We have Trench Barrel, which I also view as separate. Cascade Point, which I also view as separate. And then finally, we have Surrounded. There's also Focus Fury on a couple slugs, and I've included that as a small bonus to the weighting of the slugs that have it. Although you're typically not using a slug and just shooting it straight for 3 shots, 4 shots, whatever it is, to proc Focus Fury. So I haven't given it too much weight, but I did give some of these shotguns a little bonus for having Focus Fury in case there is an opportunity to use Focus Fury, like on Heritage. And finally, we have competition. So competition refers to, is this shotgun the best at what it does, right? Is Heritage the best kinetic slug swap DPS weapon, or is it the best kinetic utility shotgun? If the answer is yes, I've given it high points. If the answer is it's an acceptable alternative but it's not clearly the best, I've given it some points. And then if it's just a non-starter, nobody would ever consider this off the bat, then I've given it 0 points. Now, adding all of these numbers up, adding all of this scoring up and weighting things appropriately, I believe I've come up with a solid ranking of shotguns, and we're going to go over that in this next section. Now, I know I've kept you staring at a still screen for a long time, talking my head off, so I'm going to get started real quick. We're going to go down the shotguns in alphabetical order, and hopefully by the end of this, we'll have a nice, robust looking tier list that we can talk about and make some cool, conjecture about. So, number 1 on the list, alphabetical order, we have a Sudden Death. Now, the Sudden Death is an arc aggressive shotgun. The aggressive shotgun, the aggressive archetype, that's already a good starter for it. It's arc, however, there aren't really any good arc heavy weapons that are used in the meta right now. Hothead is decent, but it's not really good enough to really say that, arc affinity is something that you should be chasing for. It has decent swapping perks in Threat Detector and Surplus. It has an ammo perk in Field Prep. It has a Grave Robber as a reload perk, and it has Frenzy, 1-2 punch, and Surrounded as damage perks. Now, that array of damage perks, although 1-2 punch is not ideal on aggressives, is what really brings this thing up from being like something like a C tier or a D tier weapon up into the B tier. So a Sudden Death goes right in the B tier, starting right in the middle as a benchmark to start us off. Okay, next up we have another aggressive shotgun, and that is Astral Horizon from Trials of Osiris. Now, Astral Horizon is an aggressive shotgun just like a Sudden Death, but it is a kinetic shotgun, meaning it has a positive affinity. However, it is missing some things. It has no good reload perks, no ammo perks. It has surplus and threat detector, which are useful for swapping, and it has 1-2 punch and vorpal weapon and cascade point, which is a pretty interesting pick for an aggressive shotgun to have. Typically, aggressive shotguns with their small mags don't benefit much from cascade point, but if there's ever a need to have an Astral Horizon with cascade point in a damage rotation, you know, it's a pretty unique role, and I'm pretty sure Astral's the only one that's got it in this slot. So with that being said, those are the perks that Astral Horizon has. When it comes to the competition, is this thing the best in its slot? Is it the best kinetic swap shotgun? I would say no, but it is an acceptable alternative. So with that being said, Astral is sort of a middling shotgun. I'm going to put it in the B tier right next to a sudden death. And speaking of competition, I don't think I mentioned this for a sudden death, but the sudden death is, you know, it's competing with guns like Found Verdict and Deadpan Delivery. And I would say it's also just an acceptable alternative in that case. Same thing with Astral Horizon, competing with the likes of Ragnhild-D and Imperial Decree. Okay, moving on, we have Basso Ostinato. Basso Ostinato is a rapid fire frame shotgun, already a great thing for it right out the gate. It's void, so surge matching is not really a, you know, something that's really in the play here. Not really going to use it with Tractor either. That being said, it has Lead from Gold, Grave Robber, Envious Assassin, Trench Barrel, and 1-2 punch, which make this thing an excellent 1-2 punch shotgun. It's arguably the best archetype for 1-2 punching. It has Lead from Gold, it has Grave Robber, it has 1-2 punch. Trench Barrel's not great on rapids, and Envious Assassin's kind of a weird quirky perk, but besides that, this thing has all it needs, all the makings of a great shotgun, so I've gone ahead and put it in the A tier. If I can find it. Where is Basso Ostinato? Right here. Let's put that thing in the A tier, solidly A tier. Okay, next up we have Blasphemer. Blasphemer from the Moon. Blasphemer is a kinetic slug, which is decent. You know, a slug is not bad, and kinetic is a good affinity. However, this thing has no damage perks. This thing has no damage perks. You know, it has 4th times the charm as an ammo regen perk, and it has a couple PvP-esque perks, which make it decent for swapping, but no damage perk really hurts this thing and puts it in the bin. I'm going to put it in the D tier. So I'm going to put Blasphemer in the D tier. This thing is clearly designed for PvP, and if you're going to use it in PvE, no damage perk, no auto-loading, and you know, there's just better kinetic shotguns out there that, you know, I'm going to say that are easier to get, that are more worth your time. Okay, moving on, let's talk about Bonechiller, the Europa shotgun. Bonechiller is kind of in a similar situation as Blasphemer. It's got no damage perk, but it does have autoloading holster. Despite being a worse affinity than Blasphemer, it's void, but it does have autoloading holster, like I said, has surplus, Lead from Gold, triple tap, and no damage perk, which means I'm going to put Bonechiller right over here. It's going to go right above Blasphemer just for having autoloading, but again, this thing's a non-starter, not something you'd ever consider for PvE. Next up, we have Compass Rose. Compass Rose is a precision pellet, which gives it 0 points in the archetype category, but it is solar, which means it does match with Apex, and it has quite a few decent perks, actually. It has surplus and quick draw in case you want to use it for swapping, some sort of budget swap option. It's got Lead from Gold, it's got Grave Robber, Trench Barrel, Vorpal, and Cascade Point. So it's got a lot of different damage perks from a lot of different kind of damage strategies or, you know, damage methods, damage families, you could say. So I'm actually inclined to put this thing, you know, in the C tier. I think it's definitely fits the description of C tier. It's mostly usable. I wouldn't call it decent because it is, of course, a precision frame, but it's certainly better than the likes of Bonechiller. You know, if I had a new light and I told them, you know, out of these 3 shotguns at the bottom right now, which one do I recommend to them? This one is easily the one. You know, it's got all the starter, you know, damage perks that you would want. It's just got a bad archetype, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, let's talk next about Dead Weight. Okay, so Dead Weight is a bit of a sleeper pick here. Now, originally when I was ranking this tier list on stream, I said Dead Weight was a really, really good option and was surprisingly an excellent playlist weapon from Bungie that I was just surprised to see after a dry spell of a bunch of, you know, relatively mediocre playlist weapons over the last couple seasons. So, Dead Weight, what makes this thing good? Well, first of all, it's a rapid fire frame. It's arc, which is not the best affinity, but the affinity doesn't matter that much for what Dead Weight is being used for anyway. So Dead Weight, rapid fire frame, what are its perks? It's got ensemble and surplus in case you are swapping with it, but I haven't given it any bonus points for that because it's a rapid. You're not using a rapid for swapping. Ammo wise, it has field prep, Lead from Gold, excellent perks to have on a rapid. It has reload perks in Grave Robber and autoloading holster, so it has both the good reload perks that you're looking for in a shotgun. And for damage, it has Surrounded, Frenzy, 1-2 punch, Trench Barrel, and Vorpal weapon. Now, Frenzy and Vorpal, like I said, are in the same category, but that's still the 4 distinct damage perk categories. They're all excellent perks, and this thing gets a lot of points because of that. It's very, very versatile, and it's got the best archetype in the game, so, you know, there's not much to complain about. And when it comes to scoring it for competition, you know, what's this thing's competitors? Yeah, this thing is, it's right up at the top. I have really no complaints about dead weight besides the fact that it's arc. You know, if this thing was solar, it would be hands down probably the best shotgun in the game overall. So where is dead weight? Let's go grab this thing and let's give it a ranking. If I ever find it, there it is. It's going right up in the S tier. Yeah, our first S tier shotgun is a Gambit shotgun. So dead weight is going right up in the S tier. I think it's well deserving of it. You know, I think I put it in the A tier initially when I was ranking it, but you know, I've had some second thoughts and I've really thought about it, and I think, wow, yeah, dead weight really deserves to be in the S tier. Okay, let's move on and talk about Deadpan Delivery, a shotgun that came out this season with Season of the Witch. This thing is an aggressive arc shotgun, and it doesn't have that much going for it. You know, it's got surplus, which if you're using it to swap with another aggressive, you know, that's fine. It has no ammo perks, no reload perks. It has 1-2 punch. It's got Frenzy. It's got Trench Barrel, which are, you know, 3 pretty good perks to have on a shotgun. But that's all there is to it, really. You know, it doesn't have any reload perk like I mentioned. It's arc and aggressive. You know, it's a decent archetype, but, you know, when are you really swapping with an arc aggressive shotgun? You know, not very often. And if you were, it's I wouldn't say it's the best in slot either. Or not best in slot, but best in roll either. So with that being said, I think Deadpan Delivery, you know, competing with Found Vertigo, Sudden Death, I think this thing probably goes solidly in the C tier. Yeah, I think I put it right about here. Yeah, I would think I'm probably right above Compass Rose. I think that's a fair assessment there. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Felwinter's Lie. That's this guy right here. Now, Felwinter's Lie, say what you will about it, you know, it had its PvP reign, but what about in PvE? So this thing's a solar aggressive. Like I've said before, solar is a good affinity to have. Aggressive is a decent archetype to have. What about the perks? So the perks, we got Surplus and Vorpal. Notably no Assault Mag, but that's not a huge deal on aggressives most of the time. But yeah, this thing has Surplus Vorpal. Surplus is decent for swapping. Vorpal is decent for swapping. You know, if you need a swap shotgun for using double pellet with Galley or something like that, this is not a bad option. You know, it's worse than Mindbenders, but it's not a bad option. I wouldn't call it decent overall because it's definitely really only good for one thing. And is it the best at that one thing? No. So I would say, you know, it's mostly usable. I'm going to go ahead and throw it, you know, right over here, right next to our friend, the Compass Rose. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair ranking for Felwinter's Lie. This guy's better perks. This guy's got the better affinity. That's pretty much it. Okay, let's talk next about First In, Last Out. Okay, so First In, Last Out, of course, has a very, very long history with its friend Heritage when it comes to double slug swapping, when it comes to just being a really, really solid slug in the past, in the game's history. But how does it size up today? So it's an arc slug, so I can't give it any points for affinity. Slug is not really a favorite archetype these days. And the only really things it has going for it, you know, in its relatively small perk pool, are auto-loading holster, Vorpal weapon, and surrounded. So it doesn't have any swap perks for a swap shotgun. It doesn't have any ammo perks like 4 times a charm or, you know, lead from gold or anything like that. So you're pretty much just stuck with using it for boss DPS, which is fine. But like I said, slug swapping is kind of falling out of favor or fallen out of favor for boss DPS scenarios, and arc is not the best affinity for slug swapping these days for surge matching. So as a result, I'm actually going to put this thing in the C tier. I'm going to put this thing right, I'm going to put it right next to Compass Rose. I think it and Compass Rose are, you know, kind of a good pair here. They have a, I think an identical score actually. Yeah, because this thing is not best in slot anymore. It's not best in roll anymore. Unfavored archetype, unfavored affinity. You know, not much else to say about that. If we're talking objectively, not too great. Okay, moving on, we have Fortissimo 11. Okay. Fortissimo 11, another playlist weapon. This thing's got a huge perk pool, and as a result, it's snagged a lot of good rolls that are pretty good for endgame PvE. So what does this thing have going for it? It's a kinetic slug, so kinetic's a good affinity. Slug is an okay archetype. We have surplus and threat detector for swapping on single mag. We have lead from gold and 4 times a charm for extending single mag, as well as getting more ammo in longer activities. No reload perk, which is probably this thing's biggest, you know, Achilles heel. But besides that, it has Focus Fury, it has Frenzy, it has Surrounded, and it has Vorpal. So it's got a lot of good, slug perks, right? Obviously, it's not going to get stuff like 1-2 punch and trench barrel if it's a, if it's a slug. But besides that, it's got pretty much every perk in the book that you can throw at a slug. So it's not too bad. I wouldn't say top tier, but it's certainly very good. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the A tier. I'm going to put it in the A tier right next to Basso Ostinato. I think these two will make a nice, lovely pair together. Okay. Next up, we have Found Verdict. Okay, so Found Verdict is an arc aggressive shotgun, just like a Sudden Death and Deadpan Delivery. What does it have going for it? So it's got Surplus, it's got Autoloading Holster, it's got Rewind Rounds, which is a bit of a weird pick, but it's there, and it has 1-2 Punch, Frenzy, and Vorpal. So it has, 2 good damage per classes. It has Autoloading Holster, it has Surplus, which makes it good for Rain of Fire, Dragon, Shadow swapping. So pretty much it's got all the makings of a good aggressive swap shotgun. All it's missing is solar. And as a result, I've decided to put Found Verdict in the C tier. So I'm going to put it right over here above our friend, the Deadpan Delivery. I think it's a pretty good shotgun. If Arc was all the rage right now, it would probably shoot up a little bit next to a Sudden Death. But it's pretty good. It's only missing some versatility like a Sudden Death has. A Sudden Death has more damage per classes. And but it does have auto-loading holster, which is it's a good thing going for it. It's definitely really high at the top of C tier. Okay, moving on, we have Fractethyst. So Fractethyst right over here. Fractethyst is of course a precision pellet shotgun, and it's also of the stasis variety. So I can't give it any points for archetype or affinity. It's got a pretty bad affinity and the worst archetype. So maybe does it save itself in the perk section? Let's take a look. So it has Quick Draw and Ensemble for swapping, but you're not really using a precision pellet shotgun for swapping for whatever reason. It's got Lead from Gold, which is decent, and it's got Trench Barrel. So it's got the lead trench combo, but it's a stasis precision. So it's kind of just shot itself in the foot right off the bat. If we're talking kinetic utility shotguns, because you're probably not using this thing for boss DPS, to be honest, it's not a non-starter. No one's considering the Fractethyst for kinetic utility. I wouldn't even consider it as a backup option at this point, and you can't even get this thing anymore, so let's be real. Or get it easily. So yeah, I'm gonna put this thing, smack it in the D tier. What's the score on this thing? Yeah, this thing's going, I think, right at the bottom. Yeah, right over here. Definitely below Blasphemer. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, we have Gunnora's Axe. Okay, where's Gunnora's Axe? Can we find Gunnora's Axe? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so Gunnora's Axe, this thing was touted as a first in, last out replacement the first season it came out in Iron Banner, and it's certainly, it's definitely a reasonable first in, last out replacement. Just doesn't have a solid mag, which is not a huge deal these days, post quick swap era. Now, that being said, what are the perks looking like? So this thing has Slick Draw, Threat Detector, Surplus, which are decent swap perks. If you're just doing 1 mag of damage. It has auto-loading holster, and it has Vorpal Weapon, which are the perks that Philo is known for. But it doesn't have Surrounded, right? It doesn't have Surrounded, and no Assault Mag. And when it comes to energy swap shotguns, again, it's a slug, suffers from the same disadvantages that Philo has, except it doesn't have Surrounded, and it doesn't have Assault Mag. So simply put, we're just going to put it right at the bottom of C tier. It's usable, right? It's usable. It's not like Bonechiller. But it's definitely at the bottom of usable, if we're talking usable. Okay, moving on, let's look at Hand in Hand. Hand in Hand, that's going to be this drab-looking gray shotgun over here. So Hand in Hand is an aggressive arc shotgun. This thing's got Ensemble as a swap perk, I guess. It has no ammo or reload perk, so no Grave Robber, no Lead from Gold, nothing like that. And it has Trench Barrel, Cascade Point, and 1-2 Punch. So the only really unique thing about this shotgun is that it has Cascade Point. 1-2 Punch isn't great on aggressive shotguns, but Trench Barrel is pretty great on aggressive shotguns. So you're looking at either Ensemble Trench or Ensemble Cascade for this thing with no loader perk. So, again, not looking too great. I would say it belongs right over here in the C tier. It's usable. It's got not a great, affinity, but it has Trench Barrel, it has Cascade. It has some decent perks working for it. If you're new to the game and you just want like a decent shotgun to use, it's okay. It's just okay, not great. Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's look at Heritage. Okay, so Heritage is a famous shotgun, right? It's a very, very famous shotgun. This thing was commonly seen as one of the best legendary weapons for a long time in Destiny 2 history. Probably a lot of people still think it's one of the best legendary special weapons in the game. Now, so what do I think about it? What do I think about it when it comes to this ranking? Well, it's a slug, so I'm already gonna, dock it from some potential points with that. It's also a kinetic shotgun, which is good. That works in its favor. And what about perks? So it has, for swap perks, it has threat detector, and it has threat detector, and for reload perks, this thing has a reconstruction and auto loading holster, which kind of serve the same function. So I'm just gonna say it has reconstruction. And then damage wise, it has 2 damage perks that are of note. It has recombination and it has focus fury. Focus fury is not a great damage perk, but recombination is so good actually. I consider Heritage to be, a kinetic utility and a kinetic swap shotgun. Recombination is so good as a utility perk, and it's only available on Heritage. And it's so good, it's so unique, that I've actually given it a little bit more points for recombination. This is the only exception that I've made to the scoring system actually in this entire list. I've given it a bit more points just for having recombination, because recombination is just that good. It is a 100% damage perk for 1 shot. Which evens out to 50% across, 2 shots, which is still very, very good, and enough to kill a major in most, speedrunning and low man activities. So Heritage is really good for that. And as a result, because of these, the small amount of bonus points, it's offset the issues that it has with being a slug. And I'm gonna throw it right up next to Fortissimo. I'm gonna put it right here. So I think Heritage and Fortissimo, they both have their own uses. I would say, they're both belonging in the A tier. They're both belonging in the same tier. If slugs were as dominant as they were back in year 4, some of these weapons would probably move up to the S tier, but in the current sandbox, slugs are not looking too hot. Okay, let's move on. I think we are about halfway through the list, if I'm not mistaken. No, okay, yeah, sort of. Okay, let's talk about Ikelos SGV3, V1.0.3. This thing's a rapid fire shotgun. It's solar, so that's already the max points you can get here. It's got threat detector, but again, I didn't really include that because it's not a swap shotgun, but I'd mention it. And then there's Grave Robber as its only reload perk, which is, an acceptable reload perk for the type of stuff you're going to be doing with the shotgun, utility-wise. And then damage-wise, oh boy, damage. This thing has Vorpal Weapon, Surrounded, Cascade Point, 1-2 Punch, and Trench Barrel. That is all 5 classes of damage perk covered by 1 shotgun. If you look at this thing's second column, it is absolutely impeccable. It is the most stacked damage perk second column I've ever seen on a legendary shotgun. This thing is pretty crazy. The only thing that's holding this guy back is no auto-loading holster. If this thing had auto-loading holster or a similar perk like Reconstruction or something, this thing would be hands down the best shotgun overall in Destiny 2. But that being said, only not having auto-loading is not the end of the day. And I think that easily lands this guy a spot in the S tier. So again, this thing is usable for boss DPS. It's great for boss DPS, actually. It's, solar just like Apex. And it's got Grave Robber for melee builds. It's got 1-2 Punch. It has everything. It has everything. There's nothing this thing doesn't have besides auto-loading, just like how there's nothing Deadweight doesn't have besides being an arc shotgun. Okay, moving on, let's talk about Imperial Decree. Imperial Decree is right over here. This thing's a kinetic aggressive shotgun, which gives it a lot of points in that department. It's got threat detector and surplus for swapping, which, you might be using it for ROF swaps or Dragon Shadow swaps. And it's got auto-loading as well. Auto-loading is a great perk to have on a low mag size weapon like an aggressive shotgun. And finally, it has Surrounded and Trench Barrel. And Surrounded is, I think this is the only aggressive shotgun with Enhanced Surrounded, and certainly the only one with auto-loading Surrounded from what I remember. And it's also got Trench Barrel, which is good on aggressive. Trench Barrel aggressives are arguably the only shotgun archetype where Trench Barrel is really worth using because the fire rate is so slow and reload canceling becomes an option with no damage loss. So Trench Barrel is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put Imperial Decree, as it's also the best in slot when it comes to competition. I'm going to put this thing right up in the A tier, and I'm actually going to put it right over here. I'm going to put it right over here. I think that is a fair placement for it, right next to Fortissimo. I'm going to put it, yeah, I think right here is good. I think they have the same score, but I think, Fortissimo is probably slightly better. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, we have Last Man Standing, another kind of drab gray looking shotgun. This is an aggressive solar shotgun, so it's got quite a few points in that department right off the bat. But the bad thing about this thing is that the only two perks that are notable on this thing across its entire pool for PvE are Threat Detector and 1-2 Punch. And it's an aggressive shotgun. So 1-2 Punch isn't the greatest on an aggressive shotgun. You have a very slow fire rate, you have low handling, even with Threat Detector, it's not great. And so unfortunately, as a result, I'm going to put this thing in the D tier. Yeah, pretty surprising. You know, it's got some things going for it, but you know, being a Threat Detector 1-2 Punch shotgun that's an aggressive, yeah, not great. And you know, so yeah, I don't think it has much use. There's just plenty of better aggressives out there. I really just think this one's a non-starter. This one's a non-starter. If it had gotten one good perk, if it had gotten Vorpal Weapon in the right column, this thing probably would have shot up a tier or two. But it is what it is. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Matador 64. Matador 64 is right over here. Matador 64 is a precision pellet shotgun. It's arc, so it has basically 0 points in that department. It's got Threat Detector lead from gold in the first column, and it's got 1-2 Punch in the second column. Again, another Threat Detector 1-2 Punch shotgun or lead from gold 1-2 Punch shotgun. It's a utility shotgun pretty much. I would say it's right up, right over here. Yeah, it's a precision frame shotgun. It's not a good archetype. It's not good affinity. It has pretty much just 1-2 Punch. There's pretty much no reason to use this thing. It has no, you know, synergistic perks with 1-2 Punch like Grave Robber. Yeah, it's just a non-starter. All right, moving on. We have Mindbender's Ambition. Mindbender's Ambition. This one's solar aggressive, so it's got some decent points up in there. It's got Threat Detector and Surplus, which are great because you're using this thing for double pellet swapping with a solar weapon like Galley. And it has Vorpal and 1-2 Punch. Now, 1-2 Punch I didn't give it too much points for because, again, it's an aggressive, but it has Vorpal Weapon, which is really good. It's the 15% perk you're looking for when it comes to pellet swapping. So I've decided to put this thing solidly at the bottom of B tier, right here. So it's kind of skirting the definition of decent overall because, you know, there's kind of just one thing you're using it for, but it's good at the one thing it does. It's the best in slot. In fact, the best in role at the thing that it does, which is being the best energy pellet swap shotgun in the game for general uses. Okay, moving on, we have Nessa's Oblation. Nessa's Oblation is a void slug, which means no affinity points, a little bit of archetype points, and this thing's got 4 times a charm, which I don't think most people use. It has Envious Assassin, which again, I don't think most people use, and it has Reconstruction on top of Frenzy, Vorpal, and Focus Fury. So this thing has a small variety of damage perks. Frenzy and Vorpal are again classed the same, but Focus Fury is its own kind of thing. But again, slugs really fallen by the wayside, you know, really not that great in today's meta. And this thing doesn't have Surrounded, it doesn't have Solar Affinity, it's not that much going for it. If you're using pellets with Tractor, you should just be using aggressives or lightweights. There's really no reason to be using slugs, there's no good Void Rocket in game. So unfortunately, this thing, it's got decent perks and it's craftable, but there's just not really a place for it in the meta right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put Nessa's Oblation in the C tier. Where does it go in the C tier? This thing's got a score of 5.5. Let's see here. That would put it right over by this area, right over here, which I think does make sense. Yeah, going right next to Philo does in fact make sense. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, we have Toil and Trouble. Toil and Trouble. That's this guy right here. Or sorry, not Toil and Trouble. Sorry, I skipped a lot of shotguns there. My bad. We have No Reprieve next. No Reprieve. Okay, so No Reprieve, this thing's a stasis slug. It got some attention during Plunder because of its special triple tap surrounded roll with enhanced surrounded because this thing is craftable, but it also has Surplus and Focused Fury, which are of note. Surplus to increase swap speed for single mag, and of course Focus Fury to do single slug damage. Now, single slug damage is not really relevant, and this thing, you know, because it's stasis, loses 15% against a weapon like Fortissimo. So again, and it's a slug, right? Slug swapping, kind of fallen out of the meta, just if we're looking at the numbers. So this thing, I'm going to put in the C tier. I'm going to put in the C tier. I think C tier is fair scoring for it. I think I'm going to put it, you know, right about here, probably next to, you know, probably next to Gunner's Axe. It probably belongs around there. It's just slugs that have damage perks and have okay perks, right? That are not damage perks, but and they're not non-starters, right? It's not we're not taking Bonechiller here, right? So just kind of bottom of the C tier, I think makes sense for it. I'm gonna take a drink break. Give me a second. All right. Oh my god, I've been talking nonstop for a long time. All right, let's keep going. Next up, we have One Small Step. Okay, One Small Step. This thing's a rapid fire shotgun, and it's kinetic, which means maximum points in that department. It's got surplus, which is, you know, again, not something I really held to its favor because it's in a rapid shotgun. It's got lead from gold, which is good. Great, actually, on a rapid fire shotgun. It's got auto-loading holster, which is another awesome perk to have on a shotgun in general. And it has 1-2 punch and trench barrel. Now, trench barrel is not the greatest perk to have on a rapid, as we've discussed before. It's not really a DPS increase. And it does have 1-2 punch, though, which makes this thing, in my opinion, the best overall kinetic 1-2 punch shotgun in the game. It's not a lightweight, so it doesn't have the lightweight handling bonus, the movement bonus, so you might prefer something like Wastelander, but this thing, if we're talking by the numbers, by how many shots you can hold, this thing is one of the best kinetic 1-2 punch shotguns in the game. So, as a result, I'm going to put this thing solidly in the A tier. I'm going to put it in the A tier. We're going to put it right around here, right next to Basso, probably above Basso, actually, because it is kinetic. Yeah, okay. Let's move on. We've got Prophet of Doom next. Prophet of Doom. Now, Prophet of Doom from the Garden of Salvation. This thing has this thing might be the worst shotgun on this list, actually. It might be. I don't know. We're gonna see in a second. But this thing might be the worst shotgun on this list. This thing's got a it's precision, 0 points. Arc, 0 points. No swap perks, no ammo perks, no reload perks. It has a 1-2 punch, and then it's obviously a non-starter. So I think we're going to throw this thing right down here. This thing is the worst shotgun in the game when it comes to PvE, I think. We might find something that's worse, but I'm pretty sure it is. So let's keep moving. Ragnhild-D. Ragnhild-D, that's this guy right here. Ragnhild-D, kinetic aggressive, decent marks there. It's got ensemble, it's got autoloading, it's got 1-2 punch, and it has frenzy. So the main things we're looking at here really are autoloading and frenzy. Ensemble's a small bonus for swapping if you're using Roth. And, you know, you have 1-2 punch, which is just kind of a so-so perk on an aggressive frame shotgun. So as a result, I would say this thing goes probably at the bottom of A tier. Yeah, I think the bottom of A tier. This thing's at the very, very bottom of A tier. You know, it's got a good swap perk in both handling and the damage, you know, departments. It's you know, it's just a decent overall shotgun. I would say, sorry, not decent overall. That's the wording I use for B tier. But I definitely see it being above all of the shotguns in B tier. It's definitely a step above stuff like Ragnhild and a Sudden Death. Obviously, it doesn't play with the top of A tier, but I think it's, you know, it's the benchmark for the bottom of A tier, I think. Okay, let's move on and let's look at Reckless Endangerment. Okay, Reckless Endangerment. This thing, the only thing it really has going for it is that it's a lightweight. That's it. It's a lightweight and it's kinetic. That's it. I didn't give it any more points. It's got yeah, that's literally it. It has no perks that are worth considering for PvE. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, anyways, let's just like put that there and call it a day. Moving on, let's talk about Toil and Trouble. Okay, so Toil and Trouble. Dude, did I just skip ahead again? Yeah, I just skipped ahead again. Sorry. We're going to talk about Retold Tale next. Sorry. Retold Tale is next on the alphabetical order. Retold Tale is a void precision weapon, but it actually has a lot of good perks. This thing's got quick draw and surplus for swapping, which, you know, it's a slow enough RPM that I guess you could swap with it. But it's a precision, so it's kind of weird. And then you've got Field Prep, Lead from Gold, which are great utility perks. You've got 1-2 Punch, which is usable on precision. You have Surrounded, and you have Vorpal Weapon, which are all usable on precisions. So, yeah, if this thing was born into another body, you know, it was born into like an aggressive or a lightweight frame or a rapid fire frame, and it was solar, this thing would be a top contender. So this thing's got a decent perk pool. Given its age, I'm actually pretty surprised. It's got a pretty modern perk pool, pretty relevant perk pool. So yeah, I'm gonna put this thing actually solidly in the C tier. It's pretty much a Compass Rose, but in void form. You know, it's got decent perks, and it's just precision. That's the only thing bad about it. Okay, moving on. Next we have Retrofuturist. Retrofuturist, that's this silly looking guy over here. Retrofuturist is a lightweight void shotgun. So the only thing good about this thing is that if you were going to do double lightweight swaps with Tractor, which I don't recommend anymore, I recommend using aggressives. But let's say you're on Titan or something like that, you know, you have two lightweights. This thing's void, so it could have shared a surge with Tractor. Now, That's about the only good thing that it has. It has no good damage perks besides Trench Barrel, which you're not going to use with Tractor on a lightweight. And it's got Quick Draw, I guess, which is fine. Just, you know, no auto-loading, no grave. So yeah, this thing is, you know, not really good. Not really good. I would say probably top of D tier. Probably top of D tier. Nothing too redeeming about this thing. Yeah, top of D tier, I think, is a fair assessment for it. Moving on, we have Riiswalker. Okay, Riiswalker. I sung this thing's praises for like King's Fall runs and stuff like that. You know, it's decent for bursting down majors. But I would say, you know, one thing that I kind of was an oversight on my part. This thing's not very versatile. It's got one role, right? And that's you know, quick draw Vorpal or like surplus Vorpal, and its really only purpose is double lightweight swapping, which, you know, these days I don't even recommend lightweight swapping to most players anyway. So, you know, it's decent, right? It's decent. It does its job, but its job is very singular and very limited. It is a lightweight and it is kinetic, so I'll give it that. But besides that, it's not a very versatile shotgun, you know, just in general. So as a result, we're going to go ahead and put this thing right next to Found Verdict. We're going to put this thing right over here at the top of C tier. It's mostly usable, right? It does its job, but I wouldn't say it's versatile in any way, or it's an outstanding pick, especially given that I prefer aggressive swapping over lightweight swapping these days. Okay. Next up, we have 7th Seraph CQC 12, or Mr. CQC over here. Lightweight Solar, good, decent perks, right? It's got a Quick Draw, Lead from Gold, Auto-Loading Vorpal, Trench. Already a decent series of perks. Now, Trench Barrel is not great on lightweights. They have a pretty decently high RPM. And Vorpal's okay. Just okay on lightweights, right? It's fine. Again, I don't favor lightweight swapping as much as I used to. I prefer aggressive swapping. This thing's competing with Without Remorse, which is kind of in the same tier as it, in my opinion. So I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in the B tier. You know, it's decent overall. I think it matches the theme of B tier pretty well. As, you know, in terms of where it goes in B tier, I think the scoring system has it somewhere around here, right over here. Yeah, or actually, no, I think right over here. Yeah, right over here. So yeah, it's got a 7.5 and something that's got a 7. I'll show you guys the scoring system after this if you're interested. But yeah, 7 Seraph CQC 12. I think it goes right about there. It's an excellent example of what a B tier shotgun should be. It's just decent overall. It's usable for swapping. It's usable for utility, and it's got a good archetype, right? Decent archetype, and it's got it's solar, right? So it's, you know, it's just an average shotgun. Pretty good. All right. Next up, what do we got next? We have Sojourner's Tale. So Sojourner's Tale, this thing is a slug. It's a solar slug. And I was a big fan of this thing when it came out in Splicer because I didn't have a Philo. And I got an auto-loading Frenzy Assault Fluted roll of this guy to drop for me. And it was all I had fused to my hands for like 2 or 3 seasons. That being said, this thing's okay, right? It's decent. It's got a Threat Detector Quick Draw for swapping. If you're just doing one mag, it has auto-loading, it has Frenzy, and it has Surrounded. So it is notably the best surrounded slug in its slot, right? And it's solar, of course, as well, which makes it an even better candidate in that regard for Parasite and for Galley and stuff like that. But it is a slug. It is a slug. And for that, it does have to take some points down. But that is not going to stop it from going in the B tier. I think it's a decent overall shotgun. It's got good perks. It's only really held back by its archetype. You know, it's not too bad. It's just a decent shotgun. So I think Sojourner's Tale belongs solidly in the B tier. I think we actually put it somewhere right here. I think right here is good. Yeah, I think that's a fair placement for it. Okay, next up we have Swordbreaker, the most recent shotgun on this list. Came out with Crota's End. I told you guys what I think about Swordbreaker right when it came out. Not even when the raid was out. When the perks were like leaked in the API, I was like, yeah, this thing's not really going to be very good. Some people seem to be convinced otherwise, but I'll give you my case as to why it's not, you know, a great shotgun. It's lightweight, which is fine, right? Decent archetype. It's strand, which is bad, you know, not the greatest affinity to have on a shotgun. And it's got Threat Detector, no ammo perks, no reload perks, and it has Surrounded and 1-2 punch. So this thing basically just has a Threat Detector and maybe Demo on a shotgun, I guess. It has Threat Detector and 1-2 punch. And we've had a couple other Threat Detector 1-2 punch shotguns on this list that have pretty much nothing else going for them. The only difference is this one has Surrounded, but you're surrounded lightweight swaps like with something like Xenoclast. That's just not something that you're ever going to do, I think. Yeah. So I don't think this is ever going to get off the ground. And it's strand too, right? It's not kinetic. Yeah, I don't think there's any reason to really use this shotgun over others at this point in time. Yeah, there's better 1-2 punch shotguns, there's better lightweight swap shotguns. It's yeah, I would say it's a C. It's a C tier shotgun. Probably with its score. Swordbreaker's got a score of 5.5, and that would put it right underneath here somewhere. I think that would put it right over here. Yeah, right over here, which I think makes sense. Okay, moving on. What do we have next? We have like probably 10 or so shotguns left. We got the Comedian. The Comedian. Okay, so the Comedian is an aggressive void shotgun, and it's the only shotgun on this list actually that I've given points to for being void. And the reason for that is its surge actually helps it because it's used for tractor swapping, which you know, double aggressives. So, you know, yeah, it's being void is a good thing when you're matching with tractor. And if void rockets ever came out, then you know, it would be good for that too. But yeah, it's got ensemble, it's got lead from gold, which are, you know, decent perks. I've given it you know, some points for that. But more importantly, it has Vorpal weapon and trench barrel. So trench barrel is good for total damage on aggressives, like I've said in the past, and it's got Vorpal weapon, and Vorpal weapon is what you're looking for on a shotgun to swap with tractor. So yeah, I've given it a fair amount of points for that. And in terms of the competition department, which is relevant here, it's best in roll. There's nothing better for swapping with tractor. So for that, I've given it a fair amount of points. And so this thing's going to shoot right the way up to A tier. I think, from what I remember, yeah, this thing's going to go probably right at the bottom of A tier. I think it's sharing a space with Ragnhild. These two are pretty much, yeah, I think the exact same viability level. Yeah, these are both, you know, decent shotguns for what they do. Okay, moving on, we have the Deicide. The Deicide is a rapid-fire void shotgun, just like Basso Ostinato, and it feels kind of the same role too. It's got surplus, which, you know, I didn't really favor for it, but it's got lead from gold, it's got grave robber, it's got 1-2 punch, and it has Vorpal. So it has 4 great perks for rapid fire. I would say it is best in slot. It's tied, I would say, with stuff like Basso Ostinato and Dead Weight, because the surge obviously doesn't matter that much on a 1-2 punch shotgun. And yeah, it's pretty solid. It's pretty solid. That's all I really have to say about the Deicide. The Deicide is probably going to go, yeah, it's going to go in the A tier, and I think I'm going to put it, I think I'm actually going to put it right over here. I'm going to put it right over here. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think it goes right over here, underneath one small step. So the Deicide, yeah, it scores a 9. It's a fair placement, I think. Okay, we're down to our last 7 shotguns. Let's keep going. We have the Inquisitor next. Now, the Inquisitor, when people saw that, you know, a Trials Arc Slug was going to come out soon with this model and these stats, people are like, yeah, this thing's going to replace Philo in PvE. And unfortunately, I am sorry to report, this thing has 1 perk that is relevant for PvE, and that is 4th times the charm. Every single other perk on this weapon is either mediocre for PvE, like Demo and Tricorn, or it's just not meant for PvE. So this thing, I'm sure it's great in PvP. It's got great stats. You know, it barely needs any mods or you know, any perks to reach 100 in all the relevant stats. But this thing is just not good in PvE. It's missing every perk that you're looking for on a PvE shotgun, and of course it's a slug and it's arc, so not looking too hot. I'm actually going to put this thing at the bottom of D tier. Yeah, there's just no reason to ever consider this thing. Yeah, I think it's just right down here with Prophet of Doom. It's really not good. Okay, next up we have Toil and Trouble. Toil and Trouble is an aggressive kinetic, which is a good start, but it's all downhill from there. This thing has threat detector and field prep, which are, you know, decent for an aggressive, and then it has no damage perks. Yeah, it just has no damage perks. So that makes it a non-starter, and as a result, this thing's also going solidly in the D tier, right over here. That is not the right shotgun, sorry. Right over here. Yeah, worse than the, you know, the shotguns above it. You know, this guy's got trench barrel. This guy's a lightweight void shotgun with trench barrel again. This thing's got no damage perk, just like the rest of most of these guys down here. The only thing it has going for it is that it's a kinetic aggressive. All right, moving on. Last 5 shotguns. We've got Until Its Return. Until Its Return is a rapid fire shotgun. It's strand, which is unfortunate because the rest of the shotgun is amazing. This thing has Ensemble Threat Detector, which, you know, I'm, again, not going to give it points for because it's a rapid, but it has Auto-Loading Holster, it has Trench Barrel, it has Cascade Point, it has Surrounded, and it has Vorpal. Those are 4 extremely good perks to have on a rapid fire shotgun. And this thing's best in slot. Yeah, it's best in slot. There's no other Cascade Point kinetic slot rapid fire shotgun. It's amongst the highest DPS kinetic shotguns in the game. The only thing holding this thing back is that it's strand. So that's, you know, not a huge mark against it. You know, it's minus 15%. But, you know, if we're comparing against energy shotguns, it's one of the best. It's one of the best. And of course, we have 2 energy shotguns in the S tier. So this thing, I'm going to put it solidly in the S tier. It's definitely below the other 2 shotguns in the S tier, but it's definitely up there. It definitely deserves to be in the S tier. Okay, moving on. Next, we have Wishbringer. Okay, so Wishbringer, it's a rapid fire solar shotgun, which is a great start. That's just like Ikelos SG. It's got a good start, but it has no damage perks, and it only has Threat Detector, Field Prep, and Grave Robber, which are fine. If it had 1-2 punch, that would be pretty good actually. But this thing's a non-starter. No damage perk means non-starter, and that's going to really dock this thing of a lot of points. So we're going to put this thing in the C tier. I believe it scores a 5. Yeah, it scores a 5, so it belongs somewhere near no reprieve. I'm going to go ahead and put it, I'm going to put it on the bottom of C tier. I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier. Yeah, that's where I think it goes. Okay, moving on, what do we have next? We've got Without Remorse. Without Remorse, the Haunted Shotgun. This thing is a lightweight solar shotgun. And it's pretty good. Oh, I think we've skipped over Wastelander. Did we skip over? Yeah, we skipped over Wastelander. My apologies. Let's talk about Wastelander. Wastelander, it's a lightweight kinetic shotgun, so it's got some good things going for it. If it was a rapid, it'd be perfect in this department. It's got Lead from Gold, which is a good perk, and it's got 1-2 punch, Trench Barrel, and Vorpal. Now Trench Barrel, again, not great on lightweights, and Vorpal is fine, right? Again, I don't favor lightweight swapping that much anymore, but it has 1-2 punch and it has Lead from Gold, which make it a pretty good contender. I'm going to go ahead and put this thing in the B tier. I'm going to put this thing in B tier. It does belong underneath. It's definitely in the second half of B tier. Where it is in the second half of B tier, I'm going to have to find that out. I think it belongs right around here. I think I'm happy putting it right here. Maybe actually above a Sudden Death. Yeah, I think it belongs right in the middle of B tier. I think that's solid. You know, it's a decent overall shotgun, but it's not anything to write home about. It's not an aggressive, so it's not the best pellet swapping archetype, and it's missing some perks that would make it a really excellent 1-2 punch shotgun, like the guy up here. One small step. Okay, moving on. We've got our last 2 shotguns, Without Remorse and Xenoclast IV. Let's talk about Without Remorse first. Without Remorse, again, lightweight solar shotgun. It's got Threat Detector, Field Prep, 1-2 punch, and Vorpal weapon. Threat Detector and Vorpal are great for lightweight swapping. Again, I don't really favor lightweight swapping, but that is worth mentioning. And it does have 1-2 punch and Field Prep. Now, it doesn't have Grave Robber, it doesn't have auto-loading, which do mark against it for a 1-2 punch shotgun. But this thing is not bad. It's not a bad 1-2 punch shotgun. And, you know, it's a lightweight, so that does that's a good thing for it, right? So I've put this thing as not best in slot competition-wise against some of its contemporaries and competitors. So I'm going to give this thing a solid B tier. I think this thing belongs in the B tier, probably at the bottom end of the B tier. If I had to guess, yeah, I think right about here. Somewhere in here is good. You know, it's pretty much it's like a Mindbender's but more versatile but worse archetype. So yeah, I think it actually probably goes like somewhere around here. Yeah, I think I'd be happy like right around here. Right around here is good. Okay, and finally, Xenoclast IV. Xenoclast IV is a lightweight arc shotgun. So, you know, it's docked a few marks in the archetype and in the affinity department, but that's all the bad things I have to say about it, because the rest of the shotgun is stacked as hell. This thing has surplus, right, for swapping. It has Lead from Gold and Field Prep, excellent ammo perks. It has Grave Robber and Auto-Loading Holster, both of the reload perks that you're looking for in a shotgun, and it has 1-2 punch, right? I think this thing is one of the best energy 1-2 punch shotguns in the game. This thing has Trench Barrel, which is, you know, okay on lightweight, so I didn't give it too many points for that. It's got Vorpal Weapon, which if there's ever an arc heavy out there for swapping, it's pretty good for lightweight swapping, and it has Surrounded. So this thing has a ton of great perks. It has Grave Robber, it has auto-loading, it's got a good archetype, and it's got all the ammo perks that you want. it is a solid S tier shotgun. I'm going to put it right over here. I think, yeah, I think it goes right over there, or actually, sorry, right over here. And I think that's the fair scoring for it. Okay, so this is my Destiny 2 Endgame PvE shotgun tier list. I hope the explanations of all these shotguns have made sense to you. I've certainly spent a fair amount of time crafting the explanations for all of these shotguns and using my scoring system to make sense of it. And I'll also show you guys my my scoring system real quick. So yeah, that's the spreadsheet right over here, right? So you can see I've listed every single relevant perk as well as the frame and the type and the score that these weapons got using some formulas. And as a final result, you know, we have this tiering over here. So just keep in mind that this scoring is holistic. So for example, the reason why Deadweight and Ikelos SG are so highly scored is because they do so many things so well, right? Deadweight, the only thing marked against it is that it has a, you know, not the best affinity. But again, that's not a huge deal given that what you're probably using Deadweight for is not boss DPS for most of the time because it's an energy utility shotgun. That being said, this thing has Grave Robber, auto-loading holster, all the ammo perks, it has the best archetype in the game, it has Surrounded, Frenzy, 1-2-1, Trench Barrel, Vorpal, it's stacked, it's insanely stacked. And then you have Ikelos SG. Ikelos SG has a better affinity, but it's missing auto-loading holster, which gives it kind of the same footing as Deadweight, but it has a couple better damage perks. So yeah, I hope this kind of makes sense to you. I hope this holistic ranking kind of makes sense to you. I thought, you know, I think I underrated stuff like CQC and I overrated some stuff like Heritage. And I think with this iteration of the list, I think I've actually genuinely fairly ranked everything based on how all of these weapons perform DPS wise and how all of these weapons perform utility wise and how all of these weapons perform when it comes to swapping versus single shot weapons. I think I've really covered everything here. The fact that Heritage is right here, I think actually is really indicative of where shotguns have moved over time, from slugs being the absolute kings, undisputed kings, to where we are today in the DPS meta based on my calculations and testing. So I'm actually quite happy with this ranking. If you have any questions, I guess I'll show you guys the bottom end of the list as well. If you guys have any questions, you know, please let me know. You know, this is a pretty fun project to do. I'm going to do snipers next, I believe, because that's what you guys have been asking for in chat. But, you know, I think going forward, I'm going to use a system like this just so I have some more confidence in my assertions, because before when I was ranking stuff kind of willy-nilly on stream, you know, it's obviously hard to keep track of, you know, 40, 50 shotguns and really kind of keep your wits about you when it comes to comparing all of them together on the same page. And I think this really allowed me to individually segment shotguns and then compare them within those segments and really see them face to face for what they are. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and you know, if you disagree or agree with my tier list, you know, let me know in the comment section, and we'll hash it out there. You know, it'll be fun. But I'll see you guys for now, and we'll talk about snipers next.